Hello, everyone. Today I'm here with Chrisonne Henderson, a community lactation consultant and former breastfeeding peer counselor with the WIC program here in Washington, D.C. D.C. Department of Health serves as the state agency and oversees the WIC nutrition services and the breastfeeding peer counselor program. Welcome, Chrisonne.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Today we're here to talk about the breastfeeding peer counselor program. Peer counselors provide information and support to help moms meet their breastfeeding goals. They are moms from the community who have breastfed their own babies, and as a part of the WIC team, they serve as a role model for families. They connect with and provide encouragement to moms, and they help mothers manage common breastfeeding concerns. So, Chrisonne, thank you so much for being here, and congratulations on your recent promotion from WIC peer counselor to community lactation consultant and breastfeeding coordinator. It's very exciting. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about your journey supporting breastfeeding moms through WIC. And I know you first became a WIC peer counselor back in 2012. But first, let's just start at the beginning. What is your own story as a WIC participant, and how did WIC help support you on your breastfeeding journey?
Right. Once again, thank you. It's been a long time coming. So in 2012, also, I did become a WIC participant during the postpartum. So my son was about 3 months old. I did not receive WIC during my pregnancy, but I'm so grateful that I did start receiving it when my son was 3 months old. And I remember my first appointment. It was the first time I remember being praised about breastfeeding my son exclusively. And for my family, this was something that we just did. So no one was really praising me on breastfeeding my babies, like this is what you were supposed to do. And from the other side, on my husband's side of the family, it was more of kind of thing like, how long are you going to do this for? So, you know, when I was there, I was just kind of, in a way, thrown off, like, wow, they're really excited that I'm breastfeeding. And not only just breastfeeding, but the fact they always made sure that they put that exclusive breastfeeding in. They're like, oh, wow, you're breastfeeding exclusively. That's wonderful. Keep it up. So I remember just being really encouraged about what I was doing by breastfeeding my son, because prior to that, I definitely had some difficulties with breastfeeding. And that's where a spark of interest somewhat started for me to learn about lactation and how to even get into the lactation field as far as a career.
That's really great. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
So I'm curious, what made you want to become a peer counselor?
That's a good question, because to be honest, when I was approached with the offer, I remember kind of sitting there like, well, what is a breastfeeding peer counselor? Because at the local agency where I was going to receive my checks from, my WIC benefits from, at the time they did not have a breastfeeding peer counselor. But at the same time, like I said, a little bit before having my first WIC appointment, I did start searching to see how to become a lactation professional, and finding out what it took to become a lactation consultant, and seeing that there were certain requirements that you had to have. And I do remember seeing that at that time you had to have I want to say it was 1,000 hours at least under a lactation consultant that you needed. And I was just like, wow, well, I'll get that right here at this WIC, agency. So why not? And that's how I became a peer counselor. But of course, overall, I wanted to help and support moms so that they wouldn't have to deal with or go through some of the issues and problems and things that came up in my journey with breastfeeding. So that's really why I took the position, because I had a passion in wanting to help and educate and support moms in their breastfeeding journey.
I love that. That's really great of you. And so you mentioned, some of those challenges that you went through. I'm curious, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen as a peer counselor that you've seen moms facing when trying to meet their breastfeeding goals? And how, as a peer counselor, did you help them?
That's a great question. So one, definitely, I feel like one that stands out the most is the returning back to work can be a bit difficult. And to be honest, this past year, I didn't have to hear it as much due to COVID. A lot of moms were able to be at home, and they were able to continue breastfeeding their babies. And a lot of them saw that as a blessing, that, you know, they were able to work from home, or, you know, if their job was closed during this time, they were able to stay home and continue breastfeeding, and which allowed them to breastfeed longer than what they expected to, or reach certain goals that they, once again, weren't expecting to reach. But when we do have moms who have to return back to work a little bit sooner than, of course, than they would want to, some things that we do as breastfeeding peer counselors, we help moms get them pumped through their insurance, helping them and educating them so that they are prepared once they go back to work. So we're also talking about laws, breastfeeding pumping laws, and also helping them as far as getting a schedule together, pumping so that you can store up some milk before you go back to work as well. And then also maybe even working on a schedule and seeing when you'll be able to pump that at work. And then, of course, still encouraging them, because once again, even though you may have those laws to protect you pumping, who's to say that you're going to have your coworkers who are going to be excited about you taking breaks every couple of hours? Because, of course, we have some moms who have shared with me that, yes, I'm pumping, but, you know, every time I have to have someone to cover me, if I have to go pump, there's always an issue, or someone always has something to say, or sometimes it may be a boss who's giving them a hard time. So it's just, once again, educating and supporting moms. But of course, there's other challenges that come up with breastfeeding, from milk supply, or even having a lack of support at home. But I feel like the returning to work can be a biggie.
So I'm curious, why is the peer relationship so important as a peer counselor? In other words, why does it make such a difference that peer counselors are offering that mom-to-mom support, and it's coming from the community they serve?
Well, that's another great question. And I think the peer relationship and that peer support is important because as peer counselor, you've been on the WIC program, you understand how the WIC program works, you understand how the appointments go, you understand how it feels to go out and, you know, use your benefits when you're in the store. So having that experience, I think, helps moms to somewhat feel more comfortable with you, and knowing that I'm going through the same thing you are, or, you know, we're experiencing some of the same things, or even sometimes even the same struggles. And I think because of that, and being able to be open with our moms, then they feel that in a way that they can be open, and they may feel a bit more comfortable to talk to us and share things with us. Because I've definitely had some moments where some moms opened up and shared some things with me that maybe they didn't share with the nutritionist, or shared with who was taking their information. And, you know, so I think those things definitely help.
That makes a lot of sense. Such a valuable, you know, addition to the WIC team, I'm sure. All right, so now I'm just would love to hear, what was the most rewarding part about being a breastfeeding peer counselor for you?
I would say is, you know, hearing from moms how you help them, because I feel like sometimes when you have a mom to share with you how you helped her in a journey, I feel like it always comes kind of like on the worst day that you're having, or you feel really bad, or maybe it didn't go so well with getting helping a mom with latching a baby on, and then you sometimes just feel down or bad, and it's like, oh man. But then you may get a text from a mom that says, you know what, I've reached this certain milestone, 6-month milestone. I just want to thank you so much for all your help and your support. And it really helps to make you feel good. And just seeing that. And I think even later, so when I first became a peer counselor, like I said, it was in 2012. So sometimes even running into some of those moms that I helped years ago, and seeing their children grow, and knowing that I had a piece, or I played a part in the baby's development because I helped mom with breastfeeding, also is super, you know, so rewarding. It's so rewarding just to see that, and to just also know that she remembers, she remembered me, and, you know, and how I helped her.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be such a great feeling. So
it is.
Thank you so much for sharing that with me.
Sure.
So as you may know, this year, Congress is working on child nutrition reauthorization, which is a process during which they review the laws governing WIC and other federal child nutrition programs. And through this process, Congress has a really important opportunity this year to improve and strengthen WIC, to ensure that families can continue accessing the nutritious foods and the support they need to meet their breastfeeding goals. So why do you think it's important for your story and the real world experiences of peer counselors in general to be part of the conversation when these discussions are happening in Congress?
I'm so happy you brought that up, because I feel like there's a difference in knowing. Everyone knows, WIC is a nutrition, supplemental nutrition program, and we also give education. But at the same time, WIC for me was a life-changing experience. I think hearing those stories definitely makes a difference, rather just like, oh yeah, I know WIC, they do this, but hearing that, wow, not only did WIC help her as far as with giving her, the benefits that you guys give as far as food, and also giving her education, but at the same time, WIC gave me a place to grow as a breastfeeding peer counselor. And I'm just so grateful for that offer years ago when I had no idea what a peer counselor was, and I'm so glad I took that, because it changed me as a person. It, like I said, gave me a career into something, a career in something that I'm truly passionate about. I think being able to share the passion and being able to share my story and peer counselors to share their stories, because I know their stories may not necessarily look exactly like mine, but just hearing that, I think, is helpful, rather than just kind of like seeing or hearing or knowing what WIC does as far as the nutrition part, the education part, but just really seeing what it's doing in the lives of their participants and also even their employees.
Right. And I think, you can only really measure the success of a program by how it's affecting the lives of families. So
that's very well said. I like that. I should have said that too.
Thanks for talking with me today and sharing your experiences. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I know that our viewers will as well. So thank you.
I hope so. Thank you so much. And thank you again for having me.